ado, I'll let Maggie introduce this person. Thank you.
All right. Amazing. Next up, we have Dr. Joseph Romm, who is an author and climate expert. You can find him on Clubhouse at Word Ninja. And he's going to be sharing with us all about NFTs and specifically a lot of research that he has done on NFTs and digital art production and how that contributes to climate change and what kind of environmental impact that has. So please take it away. Thank you.
Howdy, this is great. Hi, I'm Dr. Joe Romm, and I come at this from a long background in climate and technology. I have a PhD in physics from MIT, and ended up working at the U.S. Department of Energy, running their Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Been working with companies like Nike and Johnson & Johnson and IBM to reduce their greenhouse gas footprint. And then my brother lost his home in Hurricane Katrina, which is August 29, 2005. And that he asked me if he should rebuild his home. So that set me on a big journey to talk to climate scientists, go to seminars, try to understand what was going on. And I realized the situation was more dire than I realized, and that climate scientists maybe weren't the best communicators. So I became a full-time communicator. And over the years of writing, I've become very knowledgeable in technology, in climate, and in storytelling, because really that's what communications is storytelling. So I met Kiki roughly 2 years ago. She has taught me so much about the art world. I was very, very fortunate to be able to go to the 2019 the Fearless Artist pop-up in Miami and dive into sort of the art tech world. And let me say a couple of things, or a few things. One is, so climate change, it is a very real and big concern. And we humans burn coal, oil, and gas, fossil fuels. It releases carbon pollution. That carbon pollution forms a blanket surrounding the planet and traps heat. And the more we pollute, the more heat gets trapped. That heat supercharges storms like Katrina and Sandy and Hurricane Sandy and Hurricane Maria and Hurricane Harvey. And it also melts the polar ice sheets, Greenland ice sheet, West Antarctic ice sheet, and that causes sea level rise. And you heard from Monica, the impact of sea level rise in a country like Bangladesh, very, very low-lying area. I mention this particularly for the people who are going to be coming to the TFA pop-up this December. Is Miami is ground zero for sea level rise climate impacts. So if you're thinking of, can I do some art that focuses on the environment and that's suitable, that makes sense. One thing to think about is sea level rise. How's it going to affect Miami? What's the future of Miami underwater, parts of Miami underwater? These are all, some ideas. Now, over in the last, several months, this whole NFT thing has just exploded with artists like Beeple selling an NFT for $69 million. And obviously all of these things, all of the, LeBron James sold a video of one of his dunks as an NFT for a couple $100,000. And we're just starting to see NFTs being talked about everywhere. So what is an NFT? Let me start with what is an NFT and why they're here to stay. I think that, NFT stands for non-fungible token, which is one of those phrases that does not roll off the tongue. But non-fungible just means something that's unique. Something that's fungible is like a dollar bill. We could swap dollar bills and nobody, no one would notice, right? You have a $10 bill, I can swap my $10 bills for your $10 bills. They're identical. They don't have any unique value, so they are fungible. Something that is non-fungible is something that's unique, like the Mona Lisa, you, a human being, your house, now a digital representation of art or digital art, that is something that can be duplicated endlessly. How do you make it non-fungible? Well, one way to do it is to attach a signature to it. And, so it is possible to create a digital, let me explain it this way. Let's focus first on the digital art. So if you're a digital artist, you can create an NFT by essentially, you work with the NFT people you're creating basically it's like a thumb drive, if it's a physical item, but it's a set of code that encapsulates not just your digital art, but your signature and possibly other things, which I will come to. And the reason why these have really taken off is cryptocurrency has taken off, and most NFTs are sold on Ethereum, with the Ethereum cryptocurrency, and Ethereum has also exploded just as Bitcoin has. So the question is, why would I want to do an NFT? And for an artist, it's very straightforward. There are three basic values that NFTs bring to the art world that are unique and important. And the first one, the one that's most important for all you artists out there, is the ability to track your art in the secondary market and get rewarded from secondary sales. Right now, for most of history, artist produces the work, sells it for whatever the market will bear at the time. And if they hit it big in 2 years, and the art goes from $2,000 to $200,000, the artist doesn't see any of that. What the NFT allows you to do is the NFT is basically a digital deed associated with your work of art. And the way they can be programmed, and currently are, I think, many the generic ones that are programmed that you would get today, you would get 10% of every future sale of your art would come back to you. And that's what that's why you need a digital ledger. And blockchain is a digital ledger. And the thing about the blockchain is that it is a digital ledger. And instead of like one of those, a notebook which has all these numbers and in it, a physical ledger, this is a digital ledger. And the digital ledger has to be verified by third parties. And as you heard the Bitcoin bombshell explain, Shauna, that right now, most digital ledger, most of blockchain is verified by something called proof of work, which is computers have to do these incredibly complicated calculations in order to be a verifier of the digital ledger. And it's a big energy consumer, which is another reason why I got interested in this. So, and I'll come back to that in a second. So the main point, number one, for why NFTs are a big deal for artists is here is finally an opportunity to create a digital deed, a digital tracing of every time your work of art is sold again and again in the secondary market, and for you to get a piece of that action. And you can just imagine what the estate, of Vincent van Gogh would be worth if every time a Van Gogh was sold, 10% of that went back to the Van Gogh family or estate. So this is potentially a lot of money, and it is potentially a game changer for artists, many of whom do not profit from the explosive, the rise in value of their artwork. So that's the value to the artist. The value to the buyer. Why does a buyer want this? Well, one main reason is the digital signature. And, I've heard a lot of people talk about, NFTs without really understanding this crucial factor, this crucial aspect of NFTs, which is, yes, it is true that anybody can view a digital work of art and they don't have to pay for it. They don't have to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars. But the point is, there's a difference between the people who go to a museum and look at the Mona Lisa and the Louvre itself, which owns the Mona Lisa, or if an artist, if a collector is lending their painting to an exhibit. There's a difference between looking and owning. And there is a difference between owning something that has the artist's signature on it and doesn't, and something that doesn't. And a really good example of this is to show that this is really nothing new. Ansel Adams, the great photographer, one of his most famous photographs is called Moonrise, Hernandez, New Mexico. And so he made 1,300 or so prints of that negative. Some he varied the how he did it, so they're all a little different. And some he added a digital signature. He added his signature to. And so one of the prints, one of the original 1,300 prints is worth $50,000, but you got one with Adam's signature on it, and now that's worth $650,000. Obviously, any one of us could go online and just get a copied print, not one of the original prints, for $20 or whatever it is, 30, $40. So it has always been the case in the art world that certain things can make a work of art more valuable, and one of those things is the signature, or more proof of the provenance. The third reason that NFTs are catching on is they also are a way for artists to communicate with and provide value to something, to their fans. And this is really important, because what you're starting to see with NFTs is that the person creating them is not just putting in, let's say, the work of art or a song and their digital signature. They're actually making this like the director's cut of a movie, where, let's say, you're a physical artist. What you could do is take a video of yourself creating this work of art, and then you could include that in the NFT. You could also have some commentary on the art. So now you're creating a value for the people who are interested in that sort of thing. Again, like the director's cut of a movie. This is, there was a great example last year where William Shatner, who played Captain Kirk and many other roles, he created these trading cards, which were his curation of his favorite moments throughout his career. So in Star Trek and the TV show to movies and other things he's appeared in. So the super William Shatner fans, all of a sudden, boom, they can get something of real value to them that means something special to them because they are a big fan of William Shatner. Or in the case of what you're seeing with some musicians is they are including, hey, you buy this NFT and you get a free pass backstage at every concert. Boom. How much is that worth to you? Well, if you're, if it's for Bob Dylan, if you're a Bob Dylan fan, it's worth a whole lot. If you're not, it's not. But that's the point. This is a way for artists to communicate, to provide extra value for their diehard fans. And as we know, over time, we tend to, the artists, musicians all tend to get more a certain type of person who likes their work and maybe wants some value added stuff. The environmental, so those are the three reasons, I think NFTs are here to stay. One is opportunity for the artists to make money on the secondary sales of their work. Number two, opportunity for the artists to get a unique digital work or a signature on a physical work. And number three is this ability to provide add-ons, the director's cut, the videos or commentary, or you could as an artist include, hey, I'll do a 30-minute phone call with whoever ends up buying this. Right? I mean, we're still at the very beginning of NFTs, so I think there's real opportunities here for being creative. Now, as you heard from Shauna, that the way that the digital ledger of blockchain is verified happens to be very energy intensive. You need big computers, and they run full out in order to solve these complicated problems. And unfortunately, running all those computers for all these different computations uses a lot of electricity. And the last time I checked about an hour ago. And I should say one thing, the people who do this, they're called the miners, the Bitcoin miners, and the successful ones get paid in tiny amounts of Bitcoin. So the higher the price of Bitcoin, the more people are willing to do the kind of intense, energy-intensive computation needed to mine Bitcoin, and that means the more power used. So the latest number for the total energy consumed each year in mining Bitcoin is now equal to the energy consumed by the electricity consumed by the entire country of Sweden in a year. So it is a lot. So when you read these articles, is cryptocurrency, bad for the planet? Is it warming up the planet? The answer is, yeah, it's not the biggest impact, but it is a serious impact. And I'll just end up by saying that currently, as I mentioned at the beginning, most NFTs are transacted in Ethereum. And unfortunately, Ethereum uses the same approach for verifying transactions on the blockchain that Bitcoin does. This proof of work, very energy intensive. But what you're starting to hear more about is other ways to verify the blockchain. And one that you're going to hear, I think, more and more of is called proof of stake, where instead of having to do massive amount, have these computers and do massive amounts of calculations and energy consumption, you're really, your percent ownership of Bitcoin determines how much verification you're allowed to do. So if you own 3% of all Bitcoin, you'd be able to do 3% of all the mining. And in other words, the stake that you have in Bitcoin is going to determine how much mining you can do. And the good news about the proof of stake is it uses like 1% or less of the energy that Ethereum and Bitcoin use. So Ethereum has been saying for apparently a couple of years now that they're going to switch over to proof of stake. They have not done so yet. Some people are like, well, when are they going to do it? There are some emerging cryptocurrencies out there, like the Near Protocol, a couple others that use proof of stake. I think artists that are really, I think everyone listening cares about the environment. I think over time you're going to see a shift to NFTs done this way, because I think artists will demand it, and so will buyers. They don't want to contribute to massive energy consumption if they don't need to. So that's sort of the story. NFTs are hot. They make there are just a few of them. They're just starting to make a little contribution to global warming, but there is hope that over the coming years that contribution can really become negligible. And that's it, Kiki.
Awesome. Thank you so much. That was really, really helpful and informative. Before I open it up for questions, I had one. I know in something from your book on how to go viral, and also from speaking with the Young Curators program at our last session, you had talked a lot about the importance of kind of for artists, especially having a story to tell. And so I'm wondering if there's any difference in your opinion in like how an artist tells their story or reaches a different audience when they're doing like digital art and selling art online, as opposed to, you know, regular being at a gallery or at an art fair and being able to interact with people directly in person.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. And you know, so let me say that yes, I spent 20 years trying to understand the ancient art and modern science of viral storytelling and really understand what makes a story engaging and memorable, because that's ultimately what we're trying to do. We're trying to stick in the memory of people. If you're trying to become a famous artist, sell your art, you want people to remember you and your work. And I think I said this in the last Lush Truths event, IdeaFest event that we had, that yes, part of your job as an artist is to come up with the best version of your story, why you became an artist, what makes you stand out from other artists, what is unique about you. This is what you're always trying to do, because when someone buys your work of art, they're really buying a story. And so when they display the work of art, people are going to say, well, you know, they're going to say, oh, that's really interesting, I like that. And then you're going to tell, and then the person who bought the work of art is going to tell the story. And if you have a great story, your work is going to be easier to sell. People will be more engaged and they'll remember it more. And obviously, we all tend to know the lives of the most famous artists and their stories. So, you know, when you're, and I wrote this whole book, How to Go Viral and Reach Billions, which goes through the elements of storytelling, how to tell the best and most memorable version of your story. You know, I think that what NFTs allow is a complete game changer, because now you can create a digital version of your story however you want. Okay, let's do you know, take your video of your of your creation process, and then create a time-lapse version of it, right? Okay, put that into your NFT. If your story could involve, you know, you're just sitting in front of a camera telling your story. Maybe you get, you know, just, you know, off the top of your head, if you start thinking, what can I do to tell my story better? Hey, I could include in it what some other people say about me. Maybe someone, you know, someone I know is a friend of mine, you know, is someone famous or something. Maybe I'm going to include some things related to social media. I just think the sky is the limit here, and you know, artists can really start to use their creativity for what they're going to include on this NFT. At the end of the day, this is all about delivering unique value and delivering your brand. What is it that makes you stand out as an artist?
Thank you so much. That was really great. I see there's a question in the chat. But is the NFT video available to everyone or only the person who buys it? Yeah.
Well, I guess in a technical sense, look, let's take the Beeple work, right? The Beeple work, I believe, was called 5,000 Days. It was a massive, 13-year effort in which every day people would sort of create a digital representation of that day, stuff that happened on that day, and then he put all 5,000 together. Now you've all seen pictures of that, so yes, I mean, I think you've all seen pictures of that, and I'm sure you can find a reasonably good digital facsimile online, and I'm sure you could buy a print, depending on how big you want to get it. But at the end of the day, only one person owns the original, and that's the person who is going to get the appreciation and the value, either because the Bitcoin, the Ethereum becomes more valuable, the underlying cryptocurrency becomes more valuable, or because the artists themselves work becomes more valuable over time. So yes, I think it's important to this is a way of creating uniqueness for digital art, or really for any type of art.
But it's a way of also monetizing it, I guess. I mean, those of us,
Yeah.
right? I mean, it depends on what your purpose is, right? I mean, I don't think it makes you can still make a unique story and make a unique film. You don't have to do it through an NFT. That's just making it unique for the buyer, correct?
Right. Exactly. No, absolutely. And this is all about it's another tool, and I think a good one, for working artists. And everyone has to make their own decision about how much they want to profit from their work versus how much they want lots of people to see their work. And I'm a writer. I'm not a visual artist at all. I'm a writer. I write books. Obviously, you can, as you go on Amazon, you can find some very cheap Kindle books, 99 cents, right? The writer, the artist decided, I want a lot of people to see this, not going to make a lot of money out of it, right? Or you go the hardcover route, right? Now your book is suddenly going to cost $30 or whatever it is. You could also give away your book, right? People put PDFs online, right? Should I charge for this PDF or not? So I think across the board, artists are always going to be faced with this choice. But I do think this opportunity to make a piece of the transaction each time it's resold in the secondary market, I really think that is a game changer, because so many artists, have not profited off of the big increase in value of their work, and that's probably most famously known in the music world, and so. But as I said, this is really, I mean, NFTs have been around for a little while, but they really only captured the public consciousness in the last 6 months. And I think that there is a lot of opportunity for creativity here. Absolutely.
So Joe, a lot of my friends, artist friends, are like, trying to make NFTs now. But for me, the real concern, of course, is the environmental impact. And I guess one thing one could do is try to offset it with these like carbon offsets. But do you really think that, I don't know, I feel like there's such a bad smell to NFTs for environmental artists that I don't know if purchasing an offset would be enough, until there's a more sustainable alternative. What do you think?
Right. Well, for those who don't know, an offset is when you purchase a so-called carbon offset, you are in theory paying money to reduce carbon pollution somewhere. For some, it could be planting a tree. For others, it could be helping to build a wind turbine farm. They are very, very controversial in the climate space, these offsets. I would say as follows: there are, like anything, there are better offsets and worse offsets. What you want to do when you're buying an offset is make sure that it sort of meets what's called the gold standard. And those tend to be pricier. But it's much more likely that your money is actually going towards something that is actually going to reduce emissions. I would say you should have a twofold strategy. I think NFTs are a very important thing for artists. And obviously, if you're just a straight out digital artist, then it's a must. But I think it's important for every type of artist. And I would just say that, get some, try to sell one, go through the various routes that Shauna mentioned. But the goal, I think, over time is to try to find a online seller who uses, who doesn't use the, Ethereum, who uses a cryptocurrency that is mined, that is verified using what's called proof of stake, as I mentioned. And I think those are starting to pop up. If you go to something called the Near protocol, which is a cryptocurrency whose current market value is $2 billion, they use proof of work, and they have some explainers on their website for why their method uses 1% or less of the total energy consumption per transaction. So again, this is an emerging area. This is something that TFA pop-up is now starting to get involved with. And I think Kiki and I know Kiki and I, care a great deal about this environmental side of things. So, it is definitely a priority for us to figure out how to minimize the environmental impact.
Can I ask something?
Sure.
Yeah, thank you. So just to make sure if I understood this correctly. So if, for example, like I have a work and I turn that into an NFT and somebody buys that work, does that mean that they have the rights to the work as well? Or is it only to the copy that they have the rights, if that makes sense?
Well, if I buy, well, I would think of it exactly the same way as if you bought the Mona Lisa, right? It's yours. You physically own it. Now, clearly, if you're an artist, right, and you're trying to sell an NFT and maximize the sale price, right, you're going to have a limited number of these NFTs, right? I mean, if you told, if you, an artist, said, I'm going to sell this NFT in the open market for whatever price I can get, if it's one of a kind, right, it's going to get if you suddenly announced, I'm going to make 1,000 of these, right? Well, obviously, if you're going to make 1,000 of them, you're going to get a lot lower priced than if you say, this is unique. This work of art, I am not going to duplicate and resell. It doesn't mean you could create a print, right? But the point is, the question is, are you going to create a unique NFT, or do you plan to create multiple NFTs of the same thing? And, people do create limited edition, like the example of Ansel Adams. He created limited edition of 1,300 prints from the original negative, right? You could create prints of prints, people do that. Once the copyright is gone, anybody in theory can do that. So I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, so if like I made animated film or something, for example, or whatever, and then took certain not screenshots, but like different,
you could take
shots.
The film itself if you wanted to.
Okay, but I mean like different shots, and then made like a looping GIF or something.
Right.
And then made that into an NFT, does that like affect the artist's rights over the film or anything, or the scene?
Well,
Or is it
when
different
you,
thing?
I mean, not an expert here, but when an artist sells their work of art, they're not selling uh, off their ability to do variations on it,
Mm-hmm.
or you just have to look at a lot of artists do a lot of works that are similar or part of a series, portraits, or I saw this one, I think it was Andy Warhol in a DC museum. He just had slightly different shades of color, and other modest changes. So no, I don't think that you're not selling away your rights to anything. Um, but like I said, if you're trying to sell something into the art market, presumably you want people to know that they're going to buy an original, unique thing that you're not going to sell another 100 of online.
Yeah, you can't sell it, but an artist always retains their copyright. So, so the artist has, I've sold paintings, but I have the right to have the photo of the painting on my website. I can, so that it's still my work. Someone owns it. But yeah, they can also sell it to someone else. But it is complicated, but you still have the copyright. And I think if you're doing it, but if you're doing something, I mean, I imagine if you're selling something as an NFT or an original, you don't want to have copies that look too similar. I mean, it is troubling when when people do that.
Yeah.
Then you want to call it a series, so it's clear that the person buying it knows that you're going to do variations on it. It's just part of a series. Or if you're doing, like I do printmaking, and sometimes I call what's called variant editions. So there's there's like different colors of the same thing. I call that a variant edition, so there's different ways so that the buyer doesn't feel like they got gypped if they see something in a different color in someone else's house. So it's
Nadia, did you have a question?
Yes, actually, after listening to all that, I have a few. So starting off, I want to Joe, like I was thinking that the offsets you were talking about with Monica, I was wondering, is it very, like, is it true, or is it sort of thing that marketing agencies market and advertise certain behaviors to minimize to seem that the influence on the environment is not as big, and they actually are doing something in favor of us? Because I was actually doing a bit of research into it, and it turns out most of the current advertising is based around this simple little idea that they're helping the environment, when actually it's just a strategy, is not really something that's quite beneficial. And how on that the offsets stand?
Well, you're asking, I think, if I'm hearing you correctly, that is there some greenwashing going on? Is there, are people selling offsets that are really more sizzle but not steak, and more marketing than reality? And the answer is yes. The answer is yes. And I had written over the years many pieces on this. It doesn't mean that there aren't legitimate ones, but yes. People have been offering very cheap, inexpensive, quote unquote, offsets for projects that would have happened anyway, for instance. And without getting too involved in this, because this is, something that people have almost written books on. But in order for me to say I'm offsetting your emissions, I have to do something in the real world that was not going to happen otherwise because of the money that you gave me. And the thing that I do has to reduce emissions permanently. So someone has got to verify that, right? Someone's got to verify that, okay, you're going to offset your emissions for this airline travel or for this NFT. And maybe it would have generated 1,000, let's say 100 tons of carbon pollution. And I'm going to sell you for $1 a ton an offset. Well, in the real world, I can't do very much for $1 a ton. And so, I might say, oh, I'm going to plant trees. Well, trees take a long time to grow and sequester carbon. So yes, I think it's caveat emptor. It is the buyer beware on offsets. Like I said, if you Google, offsets gold standard, you will find some places that adhere to some pretty strict standard of verifiability and uniqueness. And that would be my recommendation, rather than just, if you type carbon offsets into Google, you will find an endless series of them, and the ones that are cheap are probably not actually representing a reduction in carbon pollution.
Right, that makes sense. Thank you. I don't know. I completely understand what you're saying, but in a way, it feels like just making someone feel less guilty for putting their art out there and, going global in a sense. But I guess every little bit in a way counts. But yeah, I have another question. I'm a young artist. I'm in my final year of photography. I'm about to graduate. And
Congratulations.
thank you. And I'm really struggling with social media and putting my work out there. It's something that I'm really kind of put off by. I do have social media. I don't tend to like it that much and use it that much, but I do have periods when I do. And I've been always growing up with the sense that social media is not really that good. It's more for communication and getting stuff done. And I was also, doing loads of research on kind of how society, maybe in my country when I grew up, the society didn't, grew as fast as the technology in a sense. And I still got into this generation that in a way grew up with technology, but not having that strong bond and understanding, not to get upset with certain things or get certain things to her, just not struggling that much with it. And I have this really weird relationship where like I'm comfortable with social media, but also it raises a lot of fear in me. So I'm quite scared to put my work out there and have it digitalized. And I don't really know what to do, in a sense that I want to be an artist, fine art photographer, and have my work out there and get noticed. But will the NFTs create this sense of safety for me that someone won't use, my images how I wouldn't want to, in a sense, and that it will create this kind of safe bubble around me, which is also kind of absurd thinking about how huge internet is.
Sure. Well, first of all, I think you do need to, become good at marketing your own work. You're always going to be the best person for marketing your work, and for better or worse, social media is certainly the cheapest way to get your work seen by a lot of people. And everyone has to make a trade-off on how much they value privacy versus how much they want to become famous or have at least their work become better known. That's just I would that's the kind of thing Kiki can help you with. This is really her area of expertise, finding the right path for each individual artist, because everyone has a different threshold of how public a figure they want to be, how much they want to use different types of social media. What I usually advise people is find at least one form of social media. You can get overwhelmed with, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram YouTube and Twitch and so the point is, pick one. I always say pick one that you are the most comfortable with, and then get good at that. And don't, if you want to do the other ones, find a Fiverr, find one of those hot people for hire type of people, I think. But anyway, I would say this is the kind of assessment, that Kiki can help you do. She, I think that, but there's a related thing which I think I'm hearing in your question, which is, look, the a little uncomfortable marketing yourself. And I come across that we are not raised in general to brag about ourselves. That's a real problem. Oh, hi, Shetha. We can have this be the last question, and then I'll introduce Shetha. Look, I think everyone has to get comfortable with how much marketing. Marketing is a dirty word to a lot of people, because it seems like, oh, it's propaganda, it's fake, it's all Madison Avenue, smoke and mirrors, it's not the real me. You need to find the way you can market yourself where you're being genuine. Your best marketing is always going to be genuine, and I think that it's again, I think this is exactly the kind of thing that Kiki can help you with. Is